Boom.
All right, we're live. RosterWatch, Roto Underworld here. Alex Dunlap, Trashman, Cody Carpentier here in Indianapolis in our lovely Airbnb right next to Lucas Oil Stadium. Just got done with day one at the NFL Combine and wanted to go through some of our thoughts from getting availabilities with a whole ton of these different GMs and coaches and stuff. If you guys in the chat have questions or anything, let us know. Cody will be monitoring that stuff, and we will try and get to you on those. But any just general first overall thoughts, fellas, from the day? We'll get, we'll go through the various questions that we asked some of these GMs and coaches as they relate to fantasy and dynasty and best ball and stuff like that. These people look at us like we're complete psychopaths that we're asking questions about guys like Zach Pascal being a free agent and things like this. But, in our deep dynasty league, some of this stuff really does mean something. So we'll get to all that. But, guys, any general, takeaways from day one? I know, Cody, it was your first day going through the hustle and bustle of this. Trashman, I think it was your first time here in Indy too, despite the fact it's our, it's our 11th year here as a company. Anything you guys want to get off your chest or forever hold your peace before we kind of get into some of the highlights?
I mean, it seemed like the coaches, and GMs, they liked the questions that we asked because, maybe it took some of the onus off of some of the more general, questions about, organizational issues within their.
Well, you have these team reporters that are like hyenas that are just going after them, they're asking all the tough questions about, what are you going to do about Carson Wentz? And what do you get like? And, we're just there to say, like, hey, like, you did a good job drafting this dude. Like, is he going to get more touches this next year? Like, so, obviously just a lot to get through with stuff like that. And certainly we'll touch on some of the, I think that the Carson Wentz thing was awesome. That's a kind of interesting thing anyway. But maybe
I think my biggest takeaway was exactly what he said was you noticed how, this is my first time, but you notice how all of the reporters are talking about, you got the Colts, Carson Wentz. You got the Bucs. It's Brady. Who's the quarterback? And then you come in and it's like Keyshawn Vaughn or T.Y. Hilton. And it's like they're probably tired of answering those questions about Trask and Brady and Rodgers and Denver the quarterback. And you come in and you talk about Javonte and Keyshawn and Michael Pitt. Like those are questions that bring something out of the coach other than your typical,
Well, they're not answering those questions anyway.
Yeah, it's because it's a recycled shit.
In any real way.
Well, and that's what we learned a long time ago coming here to this thing. You got to phrase your questions in a certain way to be able to get any actionable advice for fantasy. We've been trying to do that. And, I think the first question that I asked, the first question of the day to George Payton, the GM of the Denver Broncos, was one that kind of made some sort of headlines around the fantasy space. Early, I just asked, all right, we know Melvin Gordon, clearly he's a free agent. Where is the status with him? And then, if, he's not able to be brought back, what does that mean for Javonte Williams? Because for Javonte, I know that let me just pull up the Dynasty rankings here, player profiler.
We got him ranked at 4 right now, and
4 overall and one quarterback.
And you could arguably say he could be higher because he's got a year and a half of age on Swift and Harris, and Swift has been there for 2 years, 2 years of continual output and injury. Harris now new quarterback. How's that offense going to look? We asked the question, is this offense going to run through Harris? And they're like, well, we just wanted to expand on that. So that's interesting. But again, Javonte, it's like there's so much untapped there. What we saw with Melvin, and now imagine he could.
What if Javonte got Melvin's work?
I was going to say he could make the case for he would be the guy that could.
You might want to if you knew that Javonte was going to get Melvin's work, and you knew that the offensive line was going to be healthy coming into next year and everything like that. I mean, you can make a case to have Javonte Williams at startups be 2 or 3, maybe not 2 at this point with Jamar Chase the way he came on, but maybe it could be Jonathan Taylor, Jamar Chase, Javonte Williams. You could probably justify that. I think it feels a little bit like betting on the come. But anyway,
so we're doing. Well, I'll throw this in there just because you mentioned it. We're doing startup drafts, rookie drafts all the time. Player profile. You can email me, Cody at Roto Underworld, and get in those. But we're just started a startup on Monday, so yesterday, and we're through 6 picks right now. It was Taylor at 101, Jefferson Chase, and then I took Javonte at pick 4. And
so you took him over Swift and Najee.
I took him over, and then Swift went the next pick, and then this guy took McCaffrey. But
I did talk to Kevin Colbert about Najee, and it didn't seem like he was as bullish on him as I imagined that he would be.
Well, let's talk about Javonte first.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about
here's
Najee in context.
Kevin,
in context of
Trashman. Kevin, we're talking about Javonte Williams.
To me, it made sense. It was a good segue.
Well, but why should we segue off Javonte? I haven't even told you what he said.
I'm just saying.
Here's what he said.
Added to the conversation.
Javonte, we think, is ready to do whatever, the full workload, shared carries. What he said, and listen to and I wanted to make sure and write this down because to me, whenever George Payton was talking about Melvin Gordon, he was talking about this dude, this $8 million running back in the past tense.
Yep.
He was not talking. So what he said was Melvin was a total pro with Javonte, and I know Javonte appreciated that relationship. So to me, it's I mean, why would he not say that Javonte appreciates that relationship, or he's like, and that he says that he's had really good discussions with Melvin, and we'd like to have him back. I think you need 2 or 3 runners in this league, but we couldn't be more happy with Javonte in his first year. So
either he was being very literal, or he didn't have. They don't think he's going to come back.
Well, it's not that he's going to – I'll bet you he'd come back. He says he wants to come back. I just don't know if you can afford – I don't know if you can – especially, who –
I don't think they can afford to
and depending on what they might need to do in free agency at quarterback, it's
and you remember Mike Boone is there. Mike Boone got hurt partially through the year, but –
he's a George Payton guy that came from
Minnesota. And Boone is nice, and we like him. So maybe they just say, we'll go Javonte, we go Mike Boone, and then we'll grab somebody late, like a big bruiser that comes along the 5th, 6th round that you can, breather back.
So with Javonte, we have him in a tier for our startup dynasty rankings that, Trashman and Byron refused to get him above Najee Harris. I think that there's an argument to get him above DeAndre Swift. We haven't gotten quite there yet because we're just being a little bit conservative until we know, until we know. But we did hear Payton say that, I think you need 2 or 3 runners in this league. Now, with that being said, I mean, you can be a team like the Colts. You can have 2 or 3 runners, and you can still have the Jonathan Taylor that's just a monster. Javonte Williams, we saw what he was able to do. Mm-hmm. If you were to give him half of Melvin Gordon's volume from this last year, can you just imagine the kind of fantasy asset you have on your hands? So Javonte, I'm not worried. The part that came out was the answer to my question was where he said, I've had really good discussions with Melvin and we'd like to have him back. Well, I would like Cody to give me $100,000. Are you going to do it?
Yeah. It's the same thing with Arizona though. Arizona, Cliff was like, I'd like to have James Conner back. I'd like to have Chase Edmonds back. I'd like to have everybody back.
Well, he said he can't have them both.
You can't have everybody back.
Right.
It's just the way it is. And you're talking about Denver, they have other problems. Is it worth bringing in Melvin for $5, $6, $7 million, or using those resources towards a quarterback so you can take the team to the next level? Because depth at running back is not going to take your team to the next level.
Payton also talked a lot with some of these other reporters, these team reporters, about how he feels like it's time for them to start looking at edge rush again.
Yeah,
it's time for them to get really elite there, to be able to get to some of these passers in the AFC West. You don't just have Mahomes to deal with.
Yep.
Anymore. I mean, now you got Justin Herbert.
But let's be honest, to keep up with those teams in that division, I mean, you're going to need an offense that can score points.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I think that we like Javonte. I mean, clearly we like Javonte. I'm not making a big deal. I don't think even despite that answer that you'd like to have him back, I don't think they're going to get Melvin back. I mean, you can't pay Melvin Gordon $5 to $8 million. I'm not.
So you said Byron and Trashman won't budge on Javonte. If you personally could choose, would you take Javonte over Najee right now in Dynasty?
I think here's the thing. I don't have a major objection at this point because we don't know what's happening with Melvin. Once we know what happens with Melvin, I will have a major objection, and then you won't have any more issues. Okay. The other thing was Payton. He said no. no stones are going to be left unturned at the quarterback position because it's the most important position in sports. So clearly they're going to be looking there. Who knows what they're going to be doing? Nobody will answer any questions about Aaron Rodgers and who could be looking at him.
It's unbelievable.
But so that's where we are as far as the Broncos. I wanted to ask you about KJ Hamler, but I didn't have time. So what about how about the Jaguars? So Trashman, we asked about Travis Etienne. He said Trent Baalke said that Travis Etienne in his recovery
he's ahead of schedule,
and they feel really good about where he is. We've been ahead of the curve with this at RosterWatch. I know Matt and Cody have been ahead of the curve with this at Player Profiler. I believe we had Etienne. We've been moving him up consistently, just trying to really stay ahead of everybody. But at this point, when you look at Travis Etienne versus there was a point in time where you would think about Austin Eckler.
Yep.
You would think about Dalvin, but those two guys who were 27. I think we got to the point where it's like Derrick Henry. You can't really consider in this same kind of class as Etienne, who will just be 23 this year. But getting him above Dalvin, getting him above Austin Eckler, I think getting him up, like, where do you guys have Antonio Gibson versus Travis Etienne?
We have Gibson higher because we just obviously from the profile standpoint, we like Gibson a lot more and his abilities. Where Etienne, he's still coming off that list, Frank, and he isn't taking a snap in the NFL, right? So the guys you just listed, Eckler, Cook, Henry, we have them in order, and he's boom right above them, and he's like just points away from Mixon and Barkley, right between the two of them. And I think that's a good spot for him right now until we see what he did. Because again, he hasn't taken a snap in the NFL. He's 23 years old, and it's just a bad spot to be put in. Whereas Gibson is half a year older than him, and we've seen Gibson in the NFL for 2 years. We've seen what he can do when the ball's given to him. So
we can see what he's done when the ball's given to him and he's healthy.
That's it.
I feel like Gibson, we're just waiting for the break. We're waiting for a clean snap.
He's only 20.
So that we can
not a clean snap or a clean break of the ball.
I'm just saying, it's just like, it seems like that's kind of what we're waiting for. So the other shoe to drop. Am I wrong? And that's why I'm
not waiting for this shoe to drop. I love Gibson. I know you do.
You love him maybe more than you should in Dynasty.
Knock on wood. But I think that I think the Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, Antonio Gibson, those are all guys.
Tier?
I feel like it's a tier, right?
We have Etienne a little lower, but I understand that.
Yeah, I feel like that's a tier right there. With the tight ends, being such a good tight end class this year, and if you watched our Senior Bowl recap, we've sort of talked about this. Clearly, if you watched our Roto Underworld versus RosterWatch rookie mock that we just did, a lot of tight ends, went off the board, starting kind of early, right? A bunch of these dudes. Trashman, just as a complete aside, before I get into what Baalke said, what do you think about the fact that your Ohio State tight end thinks he's too good to test here at the combine?
He might be right. I think he showed.
Ruckert, right?
I think he showed up at the Senior Bowl, and he made people interested. Yeah. And I think maybe he played above his head there. Maybe he plays better in game and practice than he does, testing and these kind of individual drills. And so
I feel like that guy's got a lot to prove though, because he didn't have any production. And I know that all the scouts know that he had Chris Olave, he had Garrett Wilson, he had what's that sophomore's name?
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Jackson Smith and Jigba, number 11 or something. Stud. It's just like that's a lot of targets to kind of be fighting with, man. But Ruckert was really good there. Anyway, there's a lot of these guys. There's Ruckert, there's Likely, there's the UCLA guy. Dulcich, Greg Dulcich.
Of course, very well.
Of course, there's the GOAT, Trey McBride. And so, Trent Baalke was asked about the tight ends, and he said that we're actually really happy with Chris Manhertz,
which I thought
and
was
Dan Darnold. He said, of course, we'll explore all options, but it didn't even seem the Jags. I feel like they could really use a tight end. He didn't. Baalke, from what he was saying, he didn't really. But how does Baalke always survive every? I was telling Trashman earlier, man. Like if things go to nuclear war, I'd like to find out where his house is, man. That guy survives everything. Just like it's so crazy. The other thing that Balky, I asked him, and it was kind of a cocky way to ask, but I just asked, hey man, has the ship sailed on Laviska Shenault? And he said not at all. What he said was not at all. I don't even know where that idea came from. Mm-hmm. We're very high on Laviska. He talked
Maybe
about
it's Laquan Treadwell being their number one receiver.
Yeah, he talked about his size.
That's where that kind
I
of.
think it's his fantasy Twitter building the narrative of like him not, because you know how it is, like on Twitter, everyone elevates everybody, and it's like, well, if they're not fucking all pros, then they're nothing. And you know, back-to-back 600-yard seasons, he's just got the injury bug, and he just hasn't been fully healthy. And that offense, everything's changed over the last 2 years, so he just needs time to settle into an offense and maybe consistently build that connection with Lawrence, I guess.
Trent Baalke said that he talked a lot about his size, his speed, and all the different ways he can be used. The same shit that we've been talking about. With
you mean all the different ways they don't use him?
That's kind of what I thought. And so, you know, with Doug Peterson there, we'll kind of see how that goes. But we know that, you know, Peterson and Baalke, I mean, Shad Khan came out with a statement earlier today saying that he's not going to hire this executive vice president of football operations. This was supposed to be like the babysitter of this whole, you know, this whole new group that he has, especially kind of a handholder to Baalke. You know, it's like it feels like those guys are a little bit aligned right now. So we'll see about Laviska Shenault. I have no idea where we have him in the wide receiver rankings. I mean, as far as this stuff, but maybe we could give him a little bit of a bump. So we have Shenault. I mean, we have Shenault at, let's say 1, 2, 3, and then you say wide receiver what? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 56. Okay, so we're in the right apart. We're in the same area, right? 51, 56, kind of in the. I think we could afford to have Laviska Shenault maybe ahead of a 29-year-old Kenny Golladay.
So 100%, I would say. So based on the conversations we had today, we'll talk about this guy in a little bit, but Rondale Moore versus Laviska Shenault, who would you rather have right now?
Well, we need to move Rondale ahead of Laviska if that hasn't happened. Let's see. Rondale. Trashman made a big move on Rondale in the Dynasty rankings.
It wasn't that big today.
And we'll get to that. That's a pretty big move, Trashman. And we'll get to that. So Laviska Shenault, they thought I was cockamamie for asking if the ship had sailed.
He said that was a fantastic question.
He said the ship is sailed. I have no idea where you would have gotten this.
Because that really shuts a big narrative. Because like if you lived on Twitter, which a lot of people do, they like, or I'm not doing it again. We're not doing it, and it's like you bring that out to him, and he justifies. He's like, no, dude. What are you talking about? Then that makes us. It should make us feel a lot more confident in his role going into 2022. You know, when you might.
So is Shenault a sleeper? Is he a sleeper?
He's going to turn into a.
I mean,
I think he's got such a hive. Yeah, he's got such a hive that they're going to keep going back because people were so big on him as a freshman, like in Devi and stuff like that. Like he's got a little hive. He's got a hive of people. You know, it's. I think that he'll be a sleeper. I think in redraft. You know, but I'm not sure. I think a Dynasty, the guy who's been holding on to him loves him. You know, that's just kind of the way it is. All right, let's talk about the Falcons a little bit. So basically, the first thing is, I guess I saw an unverified report that the Falcons are looking to trade Calvin Ridley. I don't know. The fact of the matter is that Terry Fontenot, Arthur Smith, neither of these guys are going to say a damn word about Calvin Ridley. You know, we tried to phrase it in ways where we could get it out of them. I wanted to ask, like, you know, just how should fans feel about the Calvin Ridley situation? There's not anything you can do to pull anything out of this. And I don't know if that's because they don't want to mess with, you know, it's kind of weird to have to talk about. It's like you're kind of talking out of school about somebody's mental health.
Well, I mean, that's a conversation we should be having.
Trashman, why did everybody think that your sweater is so fashionable today?
I can't
believe the amount of people that stopped us and told Trashman how fashionable they thought this. It's a black hooded sweatshirt, and they told Trashman that he's a fashion icon.
They're not the only ones.
Unbelievable.
I try
and wear a shirt with a collar.
Yeah,
I'm looking fashionable, but no, Trashman shows up in a sweatsuit, looking like he just rolled out of bed, which he did.
Retro hat, glasses.
People were just asking where he buys the. What is this?
Fashion.
Less since 1983.
Talentless.
Fashion.
Okay.
Talentless. That's a good one.
Anyway, so nothing about Calvin Ridley.
It's Scott Disick's company.
You did ask. How much did that sweatsuit cost you?
Well, I got.
Did it cost over $100?
Yes.
Jesus Christ, we pay you too much money. Quarter. We talked about. So Arthur Smith is a hard guy to get any answers off of, man. Like, did you think he was a kind of a square up there? Hard to get much of any answer from him. I didn't
even go talk to him.
I did ask him. I said, well, dude, did you come into 2021 but like thinking that Cordero Patterson of all people was going to be able to do this for your team? He said, he talked about how some of the guys, and I forget who he mentioned who was on his staff that came over from Chicago.
A couple guys.
Chicago. He said like they had kind of led on to him that Cordero's got some juice and in the run game in some ways that they feel like they could sort of expand on that. And he said, look at our team last year, like that's kind of thing. And we need more of this kind of thing where we just kind of find these guys. We got to find guys who can do things.
Comparatively to the rest of the running back core, he's pretty good going in.
Mike Davis, of course, a free agent. I don't think we were able to ask about him. But I mean, you can't imagine really him being back. As far as the Russell Gage, I asked Arthur Smith, just given Ridley's situation, how big a deal is bringing back Russell Gage? And his so listen to this answer. It was he said he was really productive late in the year and helped us.
Yeah.
So not much of a clue there. I think they probably. I mean, do they bring back Gage? I don't really know how much it matters. I'm not really sure.
Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, he was a square. He's one of the toughest guys to get to answer out of. I thought today it was.
And Terry Fontenot was too. Trashman asked about Kyle Pitts. We got another BS answer. What did he say?
Well, he said that he
needs to.
He didn't do everything that he wanted to do.
He had a good year, and we're looking forward to him having a better year.
I think Gage is a guy you can.
He didn't say he had a good year.
Well, he did some good.
He said that he didn't have the year that he wanted to.
Well, I mean, it was a good as far as rookie tight ends. It wasn't the
1,000 yards.
I mean, he wasn't the Julio Jones replacement, but I mean, Jesus Christ! I mean, for a rookie tight end to go for 1K, and they're the fact that they're kind of a little bit disappointed in that season just goes to show like how inflated our expectations were of Kyle Pitts, and maybe in Dynasty he's a dude that's certainly not in tight end premium. You're not going to pull anything over on somebody
because it was feast or famine with him.
Well,
that was my gripe.
But Calvin Ridley was gone all season.
But it wasn't like a consistent, decent PPR games out of Pitts or anything. It was either feast or famine.
Yeah.
And so that's why it seemed so drastic.
Yeah. And then I think for the Falcons, is that basically kind of about it from those guys?
Yeah, and I want to note in also that the free agency for the Falcons right now is outside of Ridley. Darby's the only guy on the roster for wide receivers. So Gage might be the guy that comes back. I know they had like Tajee Sharp,
Frank Darby.
Frank Darby.
Outside of Ridley, I like that.
Yeah, but I'm saying is they've won like Austin Trammell as well. But like they need wide receivers, and if they know Gage has the connection there with Matt Ryan, why not bring him back? Maybe I don't know about Olamide Zaccheaus, but I also think they might be in the market for a receiver as well. If they can get their cap down.
And it feels like Matt Ryan's certainly back based on.
Yeah, that's a really odd one too. They're really confident in him.
I think they still draft a quarterback.
Let's see some other things here. We had all right. How about Andy Reid? So we asked Andy Reid. Do you want to tell him about what Trashman, of course, had to ask about Byron Pringle?
Well, because someone had asked about McCole Hardman and his season, and so then I thought, what do you think about Byron Pringle's development this season? And he made his. He said that he really liked Pringle.
He's a free agent.
And that he got a sponsorship.
He literally worded it as like, I like Pringle. He's a free agent. and he got a potato chip deal. And he just like rolled.
Did he seriously get a deal with Pringles?
It just rolled off his. I don't even know if it was actually a Pringle deal, but maybe it was just like an.
If he got a deal with it, if he got a deal with a potato chip company, I guarantee you it's Pringles.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's like it just rolled off his tongue. Like he's just like, yeah, he's a free agent. I like him. He's got a potato chip deal. Like, and I was like, it was just a weird.
Said he didn't skip a beat.
He didn't.
That's why
it just came off.
He loves talking about. He loves talking about potato chips.
He said that time. I think he's 3 more times. He said potato chip or something.
I know he
mentioned
that he likes
potato chips,
and then he says he likes sitting inside Lucas Oil and watching drills and eating potato chips. So yeah, he's a big.
He did. He's wide receiver Brian Pringle partners with Snack Maker.
So Pringles.
Pringle.
Yeah. Pringles,
okay, I'm just
Pringles signed Kansas City Chiefs.
Go buy some Pringles. Use the promo code Pringle
to a deal to launch the company's new flavor stacks.
Okay, well, hey man, good for Byron Pringle. Flavor stacks. Does it give any flavors?
Is
it cool? Is it Cool Ranch or some kind of honey barbecue? I'll bet you it's good.
Andy Reid flavor.
Applewood smoke. Wavy applewood smoked cheddar.
Andy Reid also. I asked about. Just like what
Casey barbecue.
I asked about the year 2 evaluation on Clyde Edwards-Helaire, sort of where he was with him, and also just the fact that Jerick McKinnon looked so good to end last season. Sort of where are you on those guys as far as the running backs? He said they were both hurt this season at different times and stuff. He didn't seem as disappointed as probably most of the people in the fantasy and the dynasty community are on Clyde. He did say Clyde needs to stay healthy. And he said Jerick McKinnon needs to stay healthy. He said they both need to stay healthy, but he did say what he did say is that, but overall, very happy with both of them.
Yeah.
And he said that they're great kids and both have so much talent.
The wording seemed like he was confident in both. He didn't dislike either. He liked them both when they were healthy, both on the field. And it was like he wasn't like, yeah, we still. What I was looking for in that question was I was hoping for was like. For the Clyde Edwards-Helaire fans, which obviously I'm not really, but I was hoping that he would say. I was hoping that he would say, and shut up, Nate List. I was hoping he would say like, we're still very confident in Clyde as being that guy, or something along those lines. Is like, yeah, we're not expecting Jerick back, or he's hoping for. And he rolled into it as like he answered the question as both guys being like Siamese twins. Like this guy's nice when he's healthy, and this guy's nice when he's healthy, and they're both young, talented stars. And I was like. That's not a very positive note, even though he was like, yeah, they're nice, talented players, but it's not a very like uplifting thing for Clyde, I thought.
Yeah, I'm trying to think was there anything else that we asked Andy Reid about or anything of note that he said as far as Chiefs? No, I don't think no, it was the CEH stuff. It was the Byron Pringle stuff.
The Hardman thing was very basic. He just said what did you think about McCole Hardman? He said he got better as the season went on. He worked hard, and it really paid off for him, and that's why he got the opportunities in the latter half of the season was because early on he was working hard. But it's a very flat answer. But
Mecole Hardman needs to learn fucking Patrick Mahomes' cell phone number and get together with him and work with him in the summer whenever the other.
You shouldn't be learning and progressing halfway through the season. You should be like hitting the ground running week 1.
And that was the deal with McCole coming in. Like, is he gonna really love it and come in and work? But I guess a little bit of vote of confidence there from Andy Reid. All right, Chris Ballard, right here in Indy. That was interesting to start with the Carson Wentz stuff, right? Because he came in, the local reporters, national reporters, everybody just said, like, the first question was, like, you said that the biggest thing, coming out of this year, before this year started, was to have an answer at the quarterback position. Do you have an answer? And he said, I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know.
He said, I don't know. And then the guy was like, well, you said you want to have confidence in a guy. Well, why don't you have confidence in Carson? And he's like, well, you never said I didn't. And then he's like, but if you had confidence in him, you wouldn't be looking for a quarterback. And that's when he really caught him in that catch. And he's like, fair.
Yeah.
And then it was like it was one of those few moments today where he hit a guy and he was like,
well, they seem to be really thinking about the question.
I definitely stumped Dan Campbell.
Yeah,
when we
that one too as well. That one actually,
that was on NFL Network earlier. But dude, Chris Ballard, he's one of the dudes. Like, I went there. You guys saw, like,
GMs,
I said, like, when Ballard's over here, we need to get up here and ask as many questions as we can because he's a straight shooter and a cool dude. But dude, it does not seem like they are. I don't. He said that they're not necessarily all on the exact same page with Wentz. So Reich might be in a little bit different spot. I feel like Ballard is not.
And Irsay, he said Frank, me, and
it's
Irsay
a,
need to sit down.
it's a trinity of people.
Yeah.
He says we don't have to agree about everything,
But the
but it's I don't know if they think that Wentz is the future. And you know what? I'm not sure. I mean, to me, if there's no Wentz, that hurts Michael Pittman because Michael Pittman and Carson Wentz just locks on to one dude. Like he locked on to Pittman. I could see there being volume issues. But with that being said, what I asked about, speaking of the wide receivers, so T.Y. Hilton's up to be free. Zach Pascal's up to be free. So I asked, what young guys might step up. I just mentioned maybe like guys in these preseason dudes like Mike Strawn, Desmond Patman, et cetera.
He never mentioned Doolin, though. That's what I was like. Ugh.
And I never mentioned Doolin.
That's what I was saying. I was hoping he would bring him up.
But do you know who he did bring up? He said those guys are all right. But he did say that he's talked to T.Y. and T.Y. wants to play in 2022, but it's still up. It's still yet to be seen. He's like, T.Y. is still a good player. He's not the player he used to be. Yep. Clearly,
at least physically. But he said his mind. He said he has one of the best football minds.
I have a great football mind. Can I go play for the Colts?
I mean,
do you want to give me $750K? I'll take the veteran minimum, and they can use my football mind.
I mean, what do you like on the field? I mean,
okay, come on, dude. T.Y. Hilton is going to be.
T.Y. Hilton.
He's a Rosenhaus client. He's going to want money.
You couldn't run T.Y. Hilton's 40 when you were 17.
Oh, of course. No, I don't think that I could have gotten within two seconds of T.Y. Hilton's 40.
Yeah, Chad in the chat says Ashton Doolin. Yeah, he asked about Pittman.
Anyway,
and
do you know what?
Guys,
here's the thing, Chad in the chat. The guy he brought up, he didn't say Ashton Doolin. He said, don't forget Paris Campbell.
Yep.
He said, don't forget Paris Campbell. He said he's not ready to give up on him yet. He says he knows he's gotten hurt. But just like he says, you guys know, you guys have seen the flashes the same way I've seen the flashes. He's had really bad luck. And Paris Campbell, dude, this is a team that's losing their wide receiver core. Like Paris Campbell is going to be an important piece of this. He's probably a guy we're going to put up the Dynasty Risers article the Trashman did earlier. And Paris Campbell, I said put Paris on there, or at least get Paris in our top 250. I'm not even sure he's in there. He needs to be in there, and because it looks. I mean, is it that crazy? I mean, could you close your eyes and not imagine a world where he could, if he was healthy, he would be the number 2 wide receiver for the Colts?
But I've been imagining that for the past 3 years now.
And if it's not right, but I mean, and it's looked good for like one half of one game. For one half of one game, he gets 6 targets. You're like, damn. And then he just
yeah, but there's
right.
Too many other options. But he did bring up 3 players when he talked about players that that they were focusing on, and they were Jonathan Taylor. It was Michael Pittman and then Nyheim Hines.
Caught me by surprise as well.
I was a little bit shocked at
that was
the third guy.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, they realized through the course of the year, especially I think if you watch the in-season Hard Knocks with the Colts, I didn't watch much of it, but if you watch that, it felt like
like riveting television.
It felt like it kind of makes you like the Colts. And dude, can you believe how tilted Ballard was when he talked about that final two game stretch?
3 games.
To him, it was those 2 games, but it was also the game versus LA where they gave up the touchdown right at the very end, where Tampa Bay ran on their ass to win the game and they couldn't stop them. And then the Tennessee game right at the very end. He said that we can't think of those last 2 games. To me, it would just tilt me endlessly that I lost to the Jaguars.
Yeah.
For my playoff life, in a meaningless game for the Jaguars, and a game that meant everything in the world to me. But anyway, so that's sort of the deal with what he said about the wide receivers. Did Ballard, did we ever get anything else really from Ballard as far as the Wentz stuff? And I mean, I'm sure he said some other stuff, but those were the questions.
That was the main stuff.
The questions that we asked. All right. Okay. Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
So before I got over there, you guys asked about AJ Green and Christian Kirk being up and being free agents, and what that was going to mean for the passing game come next season. After everybody got done with our deluge of Kyler questions, right? And Cliff didn't seem too he didn't seem too sure about getting either of those guys back, or maybe willing to pay to get either of those guys back for what they could, what Christian Kirk would command, given the market he'll have, or what AJ Green would command, just given his age, right? But he did basically say either way. I forgot what the exact quote was. He said that he says he expects Rondale Moore to be a much bigger part of the offense in 2022. So with Rondale,
he needs to get the ball in space more.
Okay. Yeah.
So Cody, let's do the same trick from earlier. You pull up the Roto Underworld player profiler wide receiver rankings. I'll pull up the roster watch ones. You tell me, we say 1, 2, 3, and you say wide receiver. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 35.
Matt, he's going up.
That's a big difference, man. I mean, I think he belongs above a bunch of these guys. Trashman made a big move on him, and I don't mind it, dude. I think he belongs up here with Darnell Mooney, Kadarius Toney, dudes like, DeAndre Hopkins is 30 years old.
Cooks is 28.
He belongs up here with, Cooks will be 29.
Yeah. Right?
So, I think that he should be like Rondale Moore at age 22 next season should be above. Allen Robinson at 29. Some of these other guys. If he's going to be a bigger part of the offense,
you don't have him had a Mooney, do you?
We have him back to back.
You have him back to back.
Yeah,
I think that's a good spot.
We have Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney back to back in a clump there with Kadarius Toney.
Okay.
So I think Rondale is a guy who just based on. The fact that we just heard so much of the Senior Bowl from all this stuff from people who weren't necessarily close to the team, saying that the Cardinals weren't happy with his play as a downfield threat. That had me a little bit worried, that had me a little bit worried that this thing could go the way of Andy Isabella.
Yeah.
But I think that he's, we never heard these dudes say that, Andy Isabella is set to be a big time piece of this offense. It was
always what we wanted. It was just more from a fantasy perspective, though, because we saw we didn't.
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
Yeah, man. I think, dude, if we could get Rondale just like a 20% target share, I think we're starting to cook with some grease, man.
Staying in Arizona.
Yeah. So I made sure to ask Kingsbury, is this what you were going to say was about James Conner and Chase Edmonds? Yeah,
about how he wanted to keep both guys, but he said that he understood that you can't have everybody back, and he said James basically is the guy that you obviously we'd like to bring him back, but he said Eno's a guy we like how much he's progressed over the last years, and it's unlikely we can bring back both Chase and James, but we really like what Eno's done, and so that pretty much says what they're going to do.
Eno
and Chase are basically identical.
Well, that's the same thing I thought. Trashman, you and I had the exact same thoughts, because to me it sounded like because he talked a lot more about the virtues of James Conner than he did the virtues of Chase Edmonds.
It's right to James.
Yeah, and so I think that what he said about Eno, he said Eno's made huge. Eno Benjamin, of course, from Wiley East High School in Texas, and I think he went to Arizona State. Eno has made huge strides and has a bright future. We think he can step in and play good ball for us. And so to me, that sounds like if they can bring back James Conner, they'd like to probably bring him back and replace Eno with, as Trashman is saying, replace Edmonds with Eno, because you can see them being pretty similar. Cody has their player files pulled up, and just from here, they actually, if you just look at the little bars they almost look like the same damn.
5'9", 207, 5'9", 205, same 40, same speed. The difference is Eno actually has an 88th percentile burst, whereas Chase Edmonds has the higher agility score, but Eno still has. They're literally identical. The only difference is Eno's more bursty. So and you're getting 3 years younger version of Chase Edmonds.
If you watched Eno and if you want to go have some fun, go watch some Eno Benjamin high school highlights.
That's just like Laviska too. Is like there's a hive on Eno that is like really, really degenerates, and they love Eno. So it's like this is the time where, and people like Chase too, but that's going to be interesting seeing him hit free agency.
Okay, so let's see if just a few more here. So we asked, like Brian Dable was kind of like an Arthur Smith as far as I'm concerned with his answers to questions. he wasn't very forthcoming at all. I did ask, what?
Let's be honest, none of these guys are very forthcoming.
Some of them are okay. I mean, but you can pull these pieces out. That's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to pull the pieces. I said, what is your philosophy from because he did say today he's going to be doing some of the play calling. He's going to be involved in the play calling. He's certainly going to oversee the game plan. So I just said, what is your philosophy with Saquon Barkley, with a guy like Saquon Barkley, who they admitted is saying like they're open to anything. They'll be open to trading Saquon before his contract's out in 2022. But I just said, but if you have a guy like that, and assuming he's still Saquon Barkley, are you of the mindset, or you have the philosophy that you just feed this dude the rock and you give him all the touches you can and you get the most out of the guy? Or is it something where, you're more of a committee? What Dave Bull said is if you have good players, you try to get the ball in their hands as much as possible, whoever they are.
Are you really going to trade Saquon Barkley though? Like, you look at like what has happened the last few years as far as like assets. Like, what are you going to get for him? You're going to get a 3rd-round pick?
I don't know. It's just a whole new regime, dude. That was a Dave Gettleman era pick.
But I'm saying, like, why couldn't if you're hypothetically you bringing over the entire Buffalo scheme, why couldn't Barkley do what Singletary can do? Like, that's my thing. Is like, is a 3rd-round pick really worth giving away that talent?
Well, I think that Saquon Barkley would fetch more than a 3rd if he's fully healthy.
But again, he shouldn't have been a 1st. And then you're looking at the age, and you're looking at what you can get right now.
He should have been. He shouldn't have been a top 10 pick. He probably should have been a 1st-round pick. He had the perfect profile. I mean, but I'm Jonathan Taylor, like, Saquon are 2 guys that, I would say out of the guys that I've evaluated at the running back position since we've been doing this professionally, like I would say those since 2011. And I'd say those 2 guys are 2 of the most perfect profiles I've seen.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying, like, we saw where Jonathan went after the NFL kind of was like, all right, this first round shit shouldn't happen.
No, I get it.
And that's where it's like.
And now Saquon's got some wear. I get it.
Where we're at right now, post ACL, he's 5 years old, and I just don't know if you being like, hey, you want a 3rd-round pick, and me being like, oh yeah, this 3rd-round pick is going to definitely help my team more than Saquon Barkley's talent out of the backfield. Like, I think I'd rather just the fact that you already have him. I feel like you just ride him. And then when it's over, it's over. He's a free agent. He's a free agent. Like, that's just would be my tactic, I guess.
As far as the timing for the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers and stuff, the Brian Gutekunst is hoping that they can get that thing done by, I guess the start of free agency is the 16th. The 16th. So, I mean, that's kind of the date. That's kind of the drop dead date that they have on there for him. I just ask, what's the order of operations here? Because you have MVS up, you have Lazard up. I'm pretty sure that horrible contract that Aaron Rodgers made them take for Randall Cobb is going to be up. So, I mean, Jesus Christ, who else? Javonte Adams is up for free agency. You got a lot to address here, but if you what's the order of operations? Like, do you get some of these smaller deals done beforehand? Like, you got to get Aaron Rodgers. He said very clearly, you get Aaron done, you figure out where you're at, and you fill in the pieces from there. So maybe just a little bit of timing stuff from there. Hopefully by the 16th, we'll have a little bit of clarity with that, and that'll be able to just I guess allow the Packers to sort of know what they're doing, so we know what to do with these assets on our clearly guys on our dynasty benches. But I think more importantly, it's like opens up some stuff like for Amari Rodgers and some of these other players that we were interested in that people could have maybe gone real sour on in year one. Amari Rodgers was the first guy that came to me. Like, if they do bring back Rodgers and they bring back Devontae, they're not going to be able to give Alan Lazard or MVS what they want. So
I was going to say back to Cobb, because you mentioned Cobb, his contract. He's got a $9.5 million cap hit with only 2.7 dead. So it would save them 7. But terrible contract. But if Rodgers comes back, he's going to want Cobb there. No,
but you know what? I mean, they're going to tell him, hey, look, man. Like, they're going to say they're going to say in negotiations, this whole thing about Cobb, that was a 1-year deal. Like, we can't Cobb, you are hurting the team. Yeah. The other I wanted so badly to ask about AJ Dillon and what they thought about him. That Green Bay contingent, man, those Green Bay reporters just want to ask about every player on the damn defense and the special teams. So, so I was not able to get that in. I don't think we had anything else there on Green Bay. Okay, so next let's go to Tampa Bay, where we had Jason Light available to us. I believe Arians was available off podium. I saw he was off podium. I stopped by and listened to a little bit of what he was saying. Arians is of course always fun to listen to, but Jason Light, Trashman, do you want to just say what because you asked him about Keyshawn Vaughn?
Yeah, I asked him if Keyshawn Vaughn was ready to handle the load, and he seemed to respond in the affirmative. He said that he saw Vaughn as a starting running back, and that although they need depth in the running back, or like they think he's somebody that they can rely on.
Yeah, I think what the quote that I got from Cody's transcript, it was he's taken massive strides over the last year, and think he's taken massive strides over the last year, and we think he can carry the load.
Definitely carry the load.
Okay, all right.
But what I'm saying is like
we think he can.
There was
whatever.
Yeah,
he might have had it definitely in
affirmation there.
But he did. But he also, as Trashman said, he also did say it's important to have depth. And so if we're living in a world with no Ronald Jones, no Leonard Fournette, which who knows, and who knows how good this offense is really gonna be. But as I've talked about before on the Sirius show and stuff like that, that offensive line and that offense and stuff like that. That's a cat that can purr, dude. That's like a sports car. I guess they lost Ali Marpet, so that's a big deal on the offensive line. But that offensive line is still good. If you got a guy getting a pretty good bit of volume around there, even if the quarterback play is somewhat diminished, it's like the supporting cast should have them in scoring opportunity pretty often. And we saw Keyshawn Vaughn did just like what he did in college. People forget that Keyshawn Vaughn, as far as his breakaway one percentage, was one of the best in the whole entire class, at least as far as runs over 50-plus yards. You just wouldn't have ever thought about it from him because he went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
That offense was just so bad, but Keyshawn Vaughn would break off these big plays, and then we kept seeing it, this year down the stretch at the NFL level. So,
what would you think if like a Melvin? We're talking about Melvin leaving Javonte in Denver. What if Melvin were to go to Tampa or something like that, and they were to split, and then Vaughn were to play in that Javonte? Like they 50-50 split it with, like, hypothetically, like a Melvin and a Vaughn.
I just don't think that. I just don't want to. I don't want to dedicate any brain focus to that because I think signing Melvin Gordon would be the most idiotic thing that Jason Light could ever do.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, if they bring somebody
in
at that age and then they make somebody like worst case scenario. In my thought is like they bring somebody in, they 50-50 split it.
Like maybe you could see bringing in like a Marlon Mack.
Yeah,
or like that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that sort of player. I mean, maybe something like that. I would think that Keyshawn Vaughn would be a kind of
still viable.
Yeah, I think he needs to be moved up. I think he needs to be moved up in Dynasty rankings. I think Trashman, you moved him up a little bit today. You gave him a bump. So
where do you have him? Let's do that one on 3.
Okay, so Keyshawn, we'll see where Trash. So out of the running backs, let's see where we have Vaughn. All right, ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 32.
46. Okay, so you guys are a little bit higher than us.
Yeah, a little bit higher. Because
you adjusted already after today.
Yes, we adjusted after today.
Yeah, we haven't adjusted yet.
I think that Rashad Penny on here and Khalil Herbert need to be a little bit higher, though, for sure. I could see him being as low as 30. I could see him being yeah. I mean, we definitely need to have him ahead of the. I could see him being as low as 30. I could see him being as low as 38. Maybe get Khalil Herbert up above him. I think he needs to be ahead of Darrell Henderson.
You feel like Khalil Herbert's more of a starting back potential in the Keyshawn?
In Dynasty, I think Khalil Herbert at some point is going to pay off big. Yeah, I love what I saw at him this year. Whenever he got the opportunity. Let's see. So we have – was that all we really had from – I think Jason Light, that was the main thing that we wanted to sniff around, right? It was just Keyshawn.
He said on a Trask – he said you can never replace Tom Brady, and he said Kyle had a great season last year. We're going to give him every opportunity, and he said he also mentioned that Gabbert's not on the roster anymore, but he made a point to say that he's going to give Kyle every opportunity, and he thought that
he's the only quarterback on the roster.
Yeah, that's the thing is like he's the only quarterback there. But I thought it was interesting that he said we're going to give him every opportunity, and again, they mentioned that you can only trade for some certain amount of guys, and you can't really depend on, okay, we're going to trade for this guy because like it takes 2 guys to tango. And you have the draft as well, but I don't think they really want to go after a draft pick again. I think that's why they took Trask. So it wouldn't surprise me, I guess, if they rolled out Trask, because is it like a Trubisky or Winston, or they just rolled the guy that's in the house that learned from Brady for a year?
Well, Arian said that getting a veteran quarterback seemed out of the question.
Yeah.
So to me, it seems like it's going to be a rookie or one of these cheap.
It's gonna be a camp battle with Kyle Trask and Desmond Ritter or something like that,
or Fitzmatt, like something like that. I guess I don't, but maybe two.
So they're gonna lean heavy on the run game, is what I got out of that.
And they got a good offensive line.
And
they got good.
And
they
got
got
a line that was built to protect Tom Brady.
Yeah. So I think that Keyshawn Vaughn's probably a guy we need to be moving up in the Dynasty, maybe just betting a little bit on the come with. You're only talking about moving him up to a spot where he'd be, where you project him as a low end flex, and if he does, hit in any substantial way, he's going to be paying off a lot bit better than kind of low end level flex, especially in PPR. How about Sean McDermott, Trashman? You asked him about your guy, your favorite, your most precious angel. I can't believe it's probably the tweet that we sent out today from the RosterWatch account that got the most traction, got people the most fired up. It was about McDermott loves Gabriel Davis.
He does love Gabriel Davis. What he loves the most about him, or what he touched upon, was that Davis had become a real leader in the clubhouse, which he thought was really, really rare to see in such a young player. And that he's looking, he improved in year 1 and year 2, and he, couldn't wait to see what he did.
He was and he said he's really excited to see what 22 holds for him. It really feels like that's
I'm excited, Davis.
It really, I mean,
I've been excited for him for a while.
It feels like they like Gabe, man.
How can you not?
Yeah, for sure.
I thought it was also really, and I caught a lot of flack for this all from everybody at Play Profile because I liked him coming in. And it was like, well, he's not, Sanders and Bees and all this shit. And I was like, but if you remember at the end of last season, they said teammates, coaches, GM, they all said how, he has that talent. He has that next level. He has that superstar, that dog. He has all of that. And I think, we kind of agree on those type of things. And I was pushing towards Gabe, and it was just kind of like he didn't hit. They didn't give him the ball. They didn't stick him on the field enough. And I think if they just put him in that 2 role on the opposite side of Stephon Diggs, I think he would just flourish for a whole season.
When he's got an opportunity in volume, Gabriel Davis has come up big. A lot of it had to do with the attention the defense has played to Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
And then also he talked a little bit about asked about Singletary, and he said he brought a different energy that helped lead the team down the stretch last year. They were a fan of that energy that Singletary brought. Yeah. They hate Zach Moss. I would guess.
The career arc of Singletary has been interesting from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah. Let's see. So what about just quickly? I mean, Kevin Colbert, his last year as GM, he's going to go through the rest of this year as far as the GM responsibilities until the NFL draft, and then he'll be kind of stepping back into more of a consulting role. But asking him about, are there starting caliber quarterbacks in this class, despite the fact that everybody kind of thinks it sort of sucks, And he says, oh, yeah. And so I don't know. Let me look and see where Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh picks around 20, 18 or 19.
They pick at 20.
So the Saints pick right before them.
18, yes.
Okay, so I think that they're where the Saints 18 and 20 are wide open for quarterbacks as far as I'm concerned.
I think you got to move up. I really do. But I do think. I think what you're going with that is I think they're going to.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. But boy, man, I mean, Najee Harris and Malik Willis. I'd be interested in some of that. Your boy, the Podfather, would talk about the Alfred Morris corollary there, right? I mean,
that'd be like to the extreme too.
Did you see that prop? The prop last night was
the prize pick opened up with a prop of Malik Willis at 4.39 in the 40-yard dash.
Yeah.
I wish
we could do prize picks in Indy.
That was quickly smashed up. I think it got up to like 4.42.
Okay.
I don't remember what it got up to, but yeah, it began there. And then also Breece Hall was like 4.41. But
yeah.
Anyway, 4.39. If Malik ran that, I think this whole town would melt.
Yeah, so. Yeah. But I just kind of think based on kind of Colbert, he says there's good starting caliber quarterbacks in this draft. That was not a sentiment that was kind of really put forth by any other coach or GM that I was able to hear today. In fact,
he also considers Mason Rudolph a good starting quarterback.
No, he doesn't. Nobody does.
He doubled down on Around the NFL about 2 hours ago. They sat down with him like this, and they said, what do you think of quarterback? And he said today, if the NFL started today, we would roll out Mason Rudolph. Like he's doubled down on that again for the second time in the last couple weeks.
He's not going to have to sit around during these games and bear the misery of this. I mean, Mason Rudolph. Are you kidding me, man? This Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges bullshit. You can't do that again.
I'm not doing that.
Well, I mean, that would be like that. Trashman, we need to make a note to move. Like, if they're thinking like that it could be Mason Rudolph. We need to move down Steelers. I would, yes, dude. That offense can be able to. I mean, that offensive line as it is bad. It's not going to get. They won't be able to rebuild it during Najee's whole rookie contract. Yeah. So I don't see how they would generate offense. That would make me not like it for Deontay, even with Juju probably leaving and stuff.
They did discuss Deontay's contract. He was asked, "Are you gonna extend Deontay during the season?" And he said that his focus was on the current free agent class, and then they don't extend players a year out. So that's not on their front plate right now. So
speaking of tough quarterback questions, I did ask Dan Campbell of the Lions about what he asked him to. I said, I know that all these quarterback classes are different, right? And so I know if I asked him, what he thought about this quarterback class, he would have said like, oh, they're all different. It's like each one is its own character, stuff like that. And so what I said was but you were with all 6 of the top 7 probably quarterbacks taken in the draft this year at the Senior Bowl. You coached 3 of them, so you have some familiarity. How do you describe this quarterback class? And he had no answer. So I don't know whether that means he's trying to stay mum because they're looking at quarterback, whether he kind of thinks they suck and he just didn't have a good way to saying it. He ended up just saying he thinks they're all good football players, and that's how he would describe them. It's like so not much of an answer from him. I think that
the 3 that he coached them, I don't think they were the bottom 3, huh?
Which ones would the Lions have?
No, I guess
Malik Howell and
the Lions had the better ones because they had Zappy, they had Malik Willis, and they had Howell.
Howell is okay.
But
Willis was the winner of the week, right? So
Willis was the winner of the week. You figured Pickett was probably second best. Howell was probably third.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they had the first and the third best, I think.
So he at least got to see what he wanted to see, right? I'm sure they wanted to see. I think what's going to end up being is like everyone wants to see what Willis did, and he got the front row picture of Willis. So
yeah,
that'll be the turn of the tide. Is what happens.
He also said, just interestingly, he said the Lions are going to he was adamant saying the Lions are going to try and bring in a deep threat, like a perimeter threat to help the offense.
Well, they have to.
It's probably not an endorsement for your guy Josh Reynolds.
Oh, I like Josh Reynolds.
Mike Evans once told you that he's going to be the next OBJ, or was that Christian Kirk?
It's Christian Kirk.
What did Mike Evans tell you about Josh Reynolds?
I don't think he told me anything.
Okay. But to me, it just means like they know that they need help at wide receiver. Even if they bring somebody else on, it doesn't sound like Josh Reynolds is going to be coming back because that was what he was supposed to be. I don't know if they're going to be able to pay Khalif Raymond any sort of premium for anything he was able to compile this year just because of the dregs that they had. I think that just means Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to continue to just eat like he did.
If you got Jared Goff on our team, it doesn't matter who's going deep for you.
It doesn't matter. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to continue to feast. Like
Hawkinson, Swift, and St. Brown.
Yeah,
they bring in one other guy.
And then let's see. Other than that, man, I think that I had the one other thing about the Texans. Do you want to talk about what McCarthy said about Pollard?
Yeah, he basically said that Pollard was a multi-positional athlete. That they said they needed to get the ball in his hands more. They needed to use him in these concepts a lot more, and that he liked the duo of him and Zeke.
They need to get their packages right.
We're not going to get Tony Pollard freed for any kind of big action. And look, when we've talked to some Cowboys affiliated folks around here, and they believe that Zeke was banged up last year, and they believe that that's why he did not look as effective, and that's why he was so bad for his yards created after contact, his forced missed tackles, all the stuff that you'll hear people quote from the analytics community. They say that they're well aware of all that stuff, but he was not playing at 100%. They believe that Zeke is still what
Still the guy.
Stephen Jones just calls the straw that stirs the drink there
Yeah.
with the offense. They're much, much more concerned with things like edge, offensive line, getting ahead of this kind of deteriorating offensive line than they are worrying about dedicating any resources to anything to do with Zeke. They feel like the 1-2 punch they have with Pollard and Zeke is great. For people who've been holding Pollard so long in Dynasty, just hoping, wait till his contract's out. I think that they really love having both of them.
And
it could just be something where we just got to wait a while. And R.I.P. Podfather for all his Tony Pollard stuff. One last thing for me, just to talk, getting to ask Nick Caserio of the Texans about Rex Burkhead. I'm like, man, he's gonna be 32 next year. Is this guy is he going to be your lead back? And he was pretty forthright. He said, well, Rex last year, you saw how he was down the stretch, but that was a lot more out of necessity than really anything else that we were having to play him so much. But, he was good for us. And so we wanted to, they felt like they were kind of rewarding him when they gave him that extension into next year for his good play down the stretch. He said, but you look at our roster, we have 2 other running backs on the roster. We have, I mean, he's talking about all this. He's like, Brevin Jordan's our only tight end on the roster. We only have 2 other tight ends, or we only have 2 other running backs on this roster besides Rex Burkhead. That is Scotty Phillips, and that is Darius Anderson.
TCU.
Yeah, and he said that now Scotty Phillips is a little bit intriguing because we had on the RosterWatch podcast last week Drew Doherty from Texans TV and HoustonTexans.com. And he said that Scotty Phillips, before he got hurt last year, looked like the best runner that they had in all of training camp. Yeah. So Scotty Phillips, we need to make a note to get him on the Dynasty, probably the top 250, just at the very bottom as sort of a stash kind of player. But he said, look, I teed it up for Caserio to say, yeah, Rex is our guy who's going to lead the backfield. He did not say that. He said we got to go out. We got to build this room in the offseason. We got to see what we can put together. We have free agency. We have the draft. If you look what we have right now, pretty bare bones stuff.
How poor? Can we talk about that for 1 minute? Is it like how poor of a organizational decision is that to be like, all right, this fucking 30-year-old running back.
It's the Patriots way.
But again, this 30-year-old. But I don't even care about that. Like bringing in, I get them bringing in multiple guys, but like the way he worded it was, he helped us at the end of last season, which is when he signed the minimal contract. And so now you extend him with this outrageous contract for his age and his output because he helped you last season. It's like it was almost like the end. And I know you track the undercover guys just like I do. And it was like all season, it was like they weren't playing Nico, they weren't playing Brevin. And then it was like finally the last 3 weeks of the season, they threw him out there because they had to. And it was like, why all season didn't we see a Mills, Nico, Jalen Camp, Brevin, Scotty? Why was that not? And it kind of all molds together as saying like they're just making bad decisions. Like, why would you re-sign Rex Burkhead? Why not go sign?
That's something that the Texans aren't used to doing.
Go sign some young people. You're at the stone right now. You're at the stone fucking floor. Go you're restarting. Restart the goddamn franchise and quit why?
They traded DeAndre Hopkins for David Johnson.
I get that.
I mean, you can't get inside the heads of these fucking people.
It's just, and I'm not saying this. Like, it's just when you think about it, for any Houston Texans fans out there, they're like, oh yeah, we're doing the right things. You're not. I'm sorry, you're not.
I don't think any Houston Texans fans have that misconception.
Let's go get some drinks, man. Let's go bet on some horses, man. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. You can follow Cody on Twitter at what?
CarpentierNFL.
At CarpentierNFL. You can follow Trashman and I at RosterWatch. Find all of our content at RosterWatch.com. Find all of Cody's stuff over there at Player Profiler, man. We're so happy to be broadcasting here. We'll hope to do it every night. Hopefully, we'll be here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I know we'll have quarterback wide receiver sessions Thursday night, so maybe it'll be hard to get anything done then, but hopefully we'll get something done again tomorrow. We appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.